They looked at the creature and saw a monster. Teeth like daggers, claws that could tear through steel, a nervous system wired for pure violence. Every expert agreed this thing was nothing more than an animal, a predator too dangerous to reason with, too feral to ever understand us. But one human saw something different. In 72 hours, Dr. Eliza Voss did the impossible. She taught a Krell warrior to play chess. Not just move pieces, actually play. Strategy, planning, sacrifice. The very things that make us human. The galaxy called it a trick, a fluke. But here's what they didn't know. The Krell didn't just learn chess. It won. Against grandmasters, against AI systems, and it did something no human player had ever done in 300 years of recorded games. This isn't just about chess. It's about everything we thought we knew about intelligence, about consciousness, about who deserves to be called sentient. By the end of this story, you'll see why the Galactic Council tried to bury this discovery, why 3 governments wanted Dr. Voss silenced, and why what happened in that research station might be the most important moment in human history. Because the truth is this: we weren't teaching the Krell, we were revealing something that was already there, something the galaxy spent 2 centuries trying to hide. Let me show you exactly how this happened. First contact with the Krell happened in 2247. Humanity had just pushed past the outer colonies when we met them in the Kepler belt, and it was a bloodbath. The Krell didn't negotiate, didn't communicate. They attacked our mining stations with pure ferocity. We lost 17,000 colonists in the first week. Every attempt at communication failed. Radio silence, mathematical sequences, even music. Nothing worked. The Galactic Council stepped in. They dealt with the Krell before. For them, this was routine. They told us one simple thing: the Krell are animals, dangerous animals, smart enough to use weapons, smart enough to coordinate attacks, but nothing more. The Council had proof: decades of behavioral studies, brain scans, observation reports from 6 different species. Every test showed the same result. The Krell had no higher reasoning, no abstract thought, no sense of self. They were classified as Category 4, sentient enough to feel pain, not sentient enough to have rights. The war lasted 9 years. We pushed them back to their homeworld of Dracon Prime, set up containment fields. The Council said keep them isolated. Study them if you want, but never assume they're people. Dr. Eliza Voss didn't believe it. She was a xenolinguist stationed at Research Post Omega. The facility sat just outside Krell space. Her job was simple: monitor their communications, look for patterns. 23 other researchers had tried before her. All of them concluded the same thing. The Krell had signals, calls, and responses, but no language. Eliza was different. She'd grown up on Europa Station. Her parents were marine biologists. They studied Earth whales. She remembered her mother saying something that stuck with her. Just because we don't understand how they talk doesn't mean they're not talking. So Eliza tried something new. She stopped looking for human patterns, stopped trying to decode grammar and syntax. Instead, she watched. For 11 months, she just watched Krell prisoners through observation glass. She noticed things, small things. The way they positioned their bodies, the way they responded to each other, not with sound, with movement, with micro-expressions in their facial ridges. Then she saw it, a juvenile Krell arranging stones in its cell, not randomly, in patterns, geometric patterns. When the guards cleared them away, the Krell made them again. Same patterns, different stones. That's when Eliza realized something. The Krell weren't failing our intelligence tests. We were using the wrong tests. Now here's where things get really interesting. Eliza requested a live subject. The Council said no, too dangerous. She pushed back, showed them her findings. They said the stone patterns were instinct, like birds building nests, nothing more. She kept pushing. Finally, they gave her one prisoner, a Krell warrior named Thrak. He'd been captured during a border skirmish. Spent 14 months in isolation. Every attempt to test his intelligence had failed. He wouldn't engage with puzzles, wouldn't respond to rewards, just sat in his cell and stared. The council gave Eliza one condition: armed guards at all times, reinforced barriers, and 1 week. If she couldn't prove anything in 7 days, Thrak would go back to the containment facility. Day 1 was a disaster. Eliza entered the observation room. Thrak was huge, 8 feet tall, covered in metallic scales. His eyes were black voids with silver rings. He looked at her once, then ignored her completely. She tried everything, showed him pictures, played sounds, offered food, nothing. Thrak just sat there. Guards whispered that she was wasting her time. One of them laughed, said she might as well try teaching it ballet. Eliza almost quit. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about those stone patterns, about what her mother said about whales, about how intelligence isn't one thing. It's many things. Humans value words, communication, abstract symbols. But what if intelligence could be something else? What if the Krell thought differently? Not worse. Just different. Day 2, she changed everything. She walked into the observation room with a chess set. Old-fashioned, wooden pieces. Physical board. She didn't say anything. Didn't try to explain. She just sat down across from Thrak and started setting up the pieces. The guards thought she'd lost her mind. But something happened. Thrak's head moved. Just slightly. His silver-ringed eyes focused on the board. For the first time in 14 months, he showed interest in something. Eliza moved a pawn. Then she waited. 10 minutes passed. 20. The guards got bored. Started talking about sports, but Eliza waited. Then Thrak moved. His claw came out. Slow, careful. He picked up one of his pawns, held it, examined it, then placed it forward. 2 squares. The guards went silent. Eliza moved again. Another pawn. Thrak responded. Faster this time. He moved a knight. Not randomly. The correct L-shaped movement. Exactly right. She hadn't taught him that, hadn't explained any rules. Thrak was learning by watching, by understanding patterns, by seeing the logic in the movements. Over the next 6 hours, they played 12 games. Thrak lost every single one, but he got better. Each game he made fewer mistakes. Started to see threats 2 moves ahead, 3 moves ahead. By the end of day 2, Thrak was playing at a beginner level. By himself, no instructions, no guidance, just pure observation and logic. The guards reported it immediately. Within hours, the facility director arrived. Dr. Hammond, cross. He watched Thrak play, watched him calculate, watched him think. Cross said it was pattern recognition, nothing more. Parrots can mimic words. Doesn't mean they understand language. Thrak was just copying moves. There was no real understanding. Eliza knew he was wrong. She could see it in Thrak's eyes, the way he paused before complex decisions, the way he tested theories, tried gambits. This wasn't mimicry. This was thought. Day 3 changed everything. Eliza set up a position, a classic puzzle. White to move and mate in 3. It's a problem that requires sacrifice. You have to give up your queen, lose your most powerful piece, to win the game. This is where most AI systems struggled. The concept of sacrifice, of losing something valuable for future gain. It requires abstract thinking, long-term planning, true strategic understanding. She showed Thrak the position, waited. Thrak stared at the board for 17 minutes. His breathing changed. Slower, deeper. His claws tapped the table. 1, 2, 3. Like he was counting moves. Then he moved. He took his queen, put it in the path of a bishop, sacrificed it. Eliza captured the queen. Thrak moved his rook. Check. Eliza moved her king. Thrak moved his knight. Checkmate. The room went completely silent. Cross stood up, said it was luck, random chance. Eliza set up another puzzle, then another. Thrak solved 4 more, each one requiring sacrifice, each one demanding complex planning. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. Word spread fast. Within 24 hours, 6 council representatives arrived at Research Post Omega. They brought their own experts. Xenopsychologists, AI specialists, professional chess players. They wanted to prove Eliza wrong. The lead representative was Ambassador Torin, a Valaxi, one of the founding council species. He'd personally overseen Krell containment for 30 years. To him, this was an insult. Humans had been in the galaxy for barely 80 years. Now one researcher was claiming to overturn decades of established science. Torin set up a test. He brought in a grandmaster, Silas Okoye, ranked 43rd in human space. Okoye had been playing chess for 47 years. He had competed against the best human minds and the most advanced AIs. The test was simple. Thrak would play Okoye. 10 games. If Thrak won even 1 game, they'd consider further study. If he lost all 10, case closed. The Krell would remain classified as Category 4. Eliza had 72 hours with Thrak at this point. 3 days. Okoye had 47 years. The first game started. Okoye played white, opened with the king's pawn. Standard. Safe. He was testing Thrak, looking for weaknesses. Thrak responded with the Sicilian defense, one of the most aggressive responses in chess. Okoye's eyebrows went up. The Sicilian requires deep understanding. It's not a beginner's opening. The game lasted 97 moves. Okoye won. But barely. He had to trade down to a king and pawn endgame, something that requires precise calculation. After the game, Okoye looked shaken. He told Torin that Thrak played like someone who'd been studying for years. Not days. Years. Game 2. Thrak played white. He opened with the Queen's Gambit. Another complex opening. One that requires long-term positional understanding. Okoye accepted the Gambit. They traded pieces. Built positions. Move 43. Thrak did something unexpected. He sacrificed a rook. Completely unprompted. Gave it up for a positional advantage. 3 moves later, that position turned into a winning attack. Thrak won Game 2. The room erupted. Torin demanded a review, accused Eliza of coaching. She proved she hadn't. Every session was recorded. Every interaction monitored. Thrak had learned everything by himself. Games 3 through 7 were split. Okoye won 3. Thrak won 1. 3 were draws. But something was happening. Each game, Thrak got stronger, faster. His moves became more sophisticated. More human. No, more than human. Different. Game 8 was when they noticed it. Okoye set up a trap, a classic fork position. Whatever Thrak chose, he'd lose material, a knight or a bishop. Either choice was bad. Every human player knows this position. You pick the lesser loss and rebuild. Thrak didn't choose either. He moved his king, walked into check, illegal move. The gods tensed, thought the experiment was over, but Eliza stopped them. She looked at the board, looked at where Thrak's claw was pointing. He wasn't making an illegal move. He was pointing at something else. A position 7 moves deep. If Okoye took the knight and Thrak responded with a specific pawn push, and they both played perfectly, there was a forced sequence that led to a draw. But the sequence required both players to see it, to cooperate, to mutually agree that a draw was the logical outcome. Thrak was trying to communicate. Through chess, through positions and possibilities. Okoye saw it too. He stared at the board for 20 minutes. Then he nodded. extended his hand for a handshake, the universal gesture of a draw offer. Thrak looked at the hand, at Okoye. Then he reached out, his massive claw wrapped around Okoye's hand. Gentle, careful, they shook. That's when everyone realized. Thrak wasn't just playing chess. He was understanding the social contract of the game, the unwritten rules, the respect between opponents. Ambassador Torin stood up, walked out of the room, came back an hour later. He looked tired, looked old. He said they needed to run more tests, neural scans, cognitive assessments. If Thrak truly had higher reasoning, everything would change. The Krell War, the containment policy, treaties with 6 species, everything, but there was a problem. The Council had rules. To be reclassified from Category 4 to Category 2, full sentient status, a species needed to demonstrate 3 things: abstract reasoning, self-awareness, and cultural transmission. Thrak had shown reasoning, but self-awareness, culture, those were harder to prove. Eliza had an idea. She brought in another Krell, a female named Shah. She'd been captured with Thrak. They'd been in separate cells for 14 months, never allowed to interact. Eliza put them in the same room, guards ready, weapons charged. Everyone expected violence. That's what the reports said. Krell were territorial, aggressive. They'd attack each other on sight. Thrak and Shah looked at each other. Then Thrak did something impossible. He sat down at the chessboard, moved a piece, then looked at Shah. Shah approached, cautious. She studied the board. For 10 minutes, she just watched. Then she moved a piece. They were playing chess. No human taught Shah. Thrak was teaching her. Through demonstration, through shared understanding. One Krell passing knowledge to another Krell. Cultural transmission, the third requirement. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The Council couldn't deny it anymore, but they also couldn't accept it, because if the Krell were fully sentient, then the last 2 centuries of policy was wrong. Worse than wrong, criminal. The Krell had been hunted, enslaved, experimented on, killed by the thousands, all because the Council said they weren't people, just smart animals. If Thrak proved otherwise, 6 species would face war crimes tribunals. Treaties would collapse. The entire political structure of the galaxy would shatter. Torin returned to the Council headquarters. He brought the evidence, the recordings, the testimony. 3 weeks later, he came back to research post-Omega. He told Eliza that the Council had reviewed everything. They acknowledged the findings. But they weren't changing the classification. Not yet. They needed proof that this wasn't an anomaly, that Thrak and Shah weren't exceptions. They needed to test more Krell. Dozens, hundreds. And that would take years. In the meantime, the containment policy would remain. The war would continue. Nothing would change. Eliza was devastated. She'd proven everything, done the impossible. And it didn't matter. That night she sat with Thrak. The guards were used to her now. They let her stay late. She brought the chess set. They played in silence. Halfway through the game, Thrak stopped. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Then he did something she'd never seen before. He spoke. Not in words. The Krell didn't have vocal cords like humans, but he made a sound. Deep. Resonant. It came from somewhere in his chest, a vibration that rattled the walls. Then he moved pieces on the board, specific pieces. He took his king, placed it on one side, took her king, placed it on the other side. Then he put all the pawns between them. Eliza understood. He was showing her the war. His people on one side, her people on the other, and everyone else caught in between. Then Thrak did something else. He took both kings, moved them to the same square, side by side. He was asking a question. Could they ever be on the same side? Eliza didn't know how to answer. She wanted to say yes, but she knew the truth. The Council wouldn't allow it. Too many species had too much invested in keeping the Krell classified as animals. Thrak seemed to understand her silence. He made that sound again, softer this time, sad. Then he reached into a gap in his scales, pulled out something small, a stone, one of the geometric stones from his old cell. He'd kept it this whole time, hidden. He placed it on the board, pointed to it, then pointed to himself, then to Eliza. She picked up the stone, examined it. The pattern carved into it wasn't random, it was mathematical. A sequence, something that repeated. Eliza ran to her lab, scanned the stone, analyzed the pattern. It took her 8 hours to realize what it was. A star map. The pattern on the stone corresponded to a region of space, specific coordinates, a location deep in Krell territory, somewhere humans had never been. Thrak had been trying to show them this for months. From his very first days in captivity, the stones weren't just patterns, they were messages, directions. He'd been trying to tell them something all along. Eliza brought the coordinates to direct across. He refused to listen, said it was too dangerous. The Council would never approve an expedition into Krell space. But Okoye overheard. The Grandmaster. He'd been staying at the facility, studying Thrak's games, learning from them. He told Eliza he believed her, and he knew someone who might help. Admiral Terence Boyd, commander of the Outer Fleet. Boyd was a legend. He'd fought the Krell for 9 years, lost friends, lost family. But he was also known for one thing. He followed his conscience, not orders. Eliza and Okoye took the evidence to Boyd, showed him everything, the chess games, the stone map, the teaching between Thrak and Shah. Boyd watched the recordings 3 times. Then he asked one question. If he took a ship into those coordinates, would Thrak go with them? Eliza said yes. She thought so, hoped so. Boyd made a decision. He'd take one stealth ship. Small crew. Eliza, Okoye, Thrak, and his best navigator. If they found nothing, he'd take full responsibility. If they found something, it might change everything. The journey took 6 days. They jumped past Council monitoring stations, slipped through Krell patrol routes, finally arrived at the coordinates. What they found there defied everything the galaxy believed. It was a city, not a settlement, not a base. A city, massive, ancient, built into an asteroid field. The architecture was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Organic curves, geometric precision, buildings that looked grown rather than constructed. And it was full of Krell, thousands of them, living, working, creating. Boyd sent a probe. The readings came back impossible. The city had technology, advanced technology, power generation systems, communication networks, things that required math, engineering, science. Thrak stood at the viewport, looking at his home. That deep sound came from his chest again, but different this time. Not sad, something else. Pride. He turned to Eliza, moved his claws in a specific pattern, the same pattern from the chess games, the gesture for your move. She understood. He'd shown her the truth. Now it was up to humanity to make the next move. But when they returned, things got complicated, because the Council didn't want anyone to know what they'd found. So what does all this mean for us today? Boyd reported the discovery directly to Earth Command. Bypassed the Council completely. That decision started a political firestorm that's still burning 3 years later. The Council accused Boyd of violating territorial agreements, demanded he be court-martialed. But Earth Command refused. Instead, they released the footage. All of it. Thrak playing chess. The city. Everything. Within hours, it went viral across human space. Within days, it reached the other Council species. The public response was massive. People were outraged, not at the Krell, at their own governments. For 200 years, 6 species had known. They'd sent expeditions into Krell space, seen the cities, documented the culture, and they'd hidden it. Because if the Krell were people, then the expansion treaties were invalid. Dozens of colonies were built on what should have been protected territory. Resources extracted from worlds that belonged to another sentient species. The economic implications were staggering. 3 species faced potential reparations in the trillions. Trade agreements would need renegotiation. Border disputes that had been settled would reopen. So the Council buried it, classified everything, labeled the Krell as Category 4, and enforced that classification with violence. The Krell knew. That's why they attacked. Not because they were animals, because they were defending their home from colonizers, from invaders who saw them as less than sentient. Ambassador Torin resigned. In his final statement, he admitted everything. Said the Council had proof of Krell intelligence for 70 years. They chose to ignore it. He called it the greatest moral failure in galactic history. 6 other representatives followed him. 2 entire species withdrew from the Council. The political structure that had maintained peace for 3 centuries was collapsing. But something else was happening too. Something better. Eliza returned to research post-Omega. This time, she wasn't alone. 30 other researchers came with her. Xenolinguists, anthropologists, mathematicians, all volunteers, all dedicated to one goal. Learn to truly communicate with the Krell. Thrak helped. So did Shah. They became bridges, teaching humans about Krell culture, teaching Krell about humans. The process was slow, difficult. Both species had 2 centuries of violence to overcome, but it worked. 6 months after Boyd's expedition, the first real conversation happened. Not through chess, through a new language, one built by both species together. The Krell explained their history. They'd been spacefaring for over 1,000 years, had their own philosophy, their own science, their own art. It just looked different from ours. They communicated through movement and vibration. Their cities were designed around acoustics, sound traveling through stone. They built their technology to harmonize with natural frequencies. To human eyes, it looked primitive. To human ears, it sounded like noise. But it was neither. It was just different. The Krell also explained why they seemed so aggressive. In their culture, direct eye contact was a challenge. Standing still meant submission. What humans saw as territorial violence was actually greeting rituals. We'd been misinterpreting their body language for 200 years, every first contact encounter, every battle, every act of aggression. It was all miscommunication, tragic, preventable, based on assumption. The chess games proved something important. Intelligence isn't universal. It's contextual. The Krell failed human tests because those tests assumed human patterns, human logic, human values. But when given a neutral framework, chess, they thrived. Because chess is pure logic, pattern recognition, strategic thinking, things that transcend language or culture. Thrak didn't just learn chess, he excelled at it. Within 6 months, he was competing in interspecies tournaments. Within a year, he became the first Krell Grandmaster. He developed a new style, one that human players had never seen. He played with rhythm, tempo, moved pieces in patterns that created vibrations on physical boards. Other Krell could read the vibrations, understand positions without seeing them. Human players started learning from him, adapting his techniques. Chess theory advanced more in 2 years than it had in the previous 50. That's what happens when you add a new perspective. When you stop assuming your way is the only way. When you're willing to learn from those you once dismissed. For humanity, the implications go beyond the Krell. We've been in the galaxy for 80 years. In that time, we've encountered 17 species. We classified 12 of them based on Council standards, Council assumptions. What if we were wrong about others too? What if there are more species out there that we've dismissed, misunderstood, harmed? Research teams are revisiting every Category 4 classification, re-examining the evidence, using new frameworks, asking different questions. 3 species have already been reclassified. Each one had demonstrated intelligence in their own way. We just weren't looking for it. This changes exploration policy, contact protocols, everything about how humanity engages with alien life. Some governments are resisting. They don't want to give up colonies, don't want to pay reparations, don't want to admit they were wrong. But public pressure is building, young people especially. They grew up watching Thrak play chess, watching him teach, watching him prove that intelligence comes in forms we never imagined. There's a movement now, students across human space demanding changes, boycotting companies that exploit misclassified species, protesting outside government buildings. They call themselves the Category Abolitionists. Their symbol is a chess piece, a pawn, because pawns can become queens. Given the right conditions, anything can transform. Eliza leads the scientific wing. Boyd leads the military reform effort. Okoye travels between worlds, teaching chess to alien species, using it as a bridge. And Thrak? He does something unexpected. He became an ambassador, the first official Krell representative to humanity. He doesn't speak English, doesn't use translators. He communicates through chess, through positions on a board, through the universal language of strategy and logic. Diplomats meet with him. They play, they learn. And slowly, carefully, they build understanding. It's not perfect. Tensions remain. Some Krell don't trust humans. Some humans don't trust Krell. 200 years of violence can't heal overnight, but it's a start. A real start. Built on the simple truth that intelligence isn't what we assumed. That sentience comes in endless varieties. That we have to look deeper. Listen better. Never assume. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. 1 year after the city's discovery, Eliza received a message from Thrak. He wanted to meet. Not at Research Post Omega. Somewhere else. The coordinates were attached. She went alone. Boyd offered escorts. She declined. This was something personal. The location was back at the Krell city, but a different part. A building she hadn't seen before, smaller, older, built into the deepest part of the asteroid. Thrak met her at the entrance. He had brought something, a box, ancient, made from a material she didn't recognize. He opened it. Inside were stones, hundreds of them, each carved with patterns, geometric sequences, star maps, mathematical proofs. These were the messages, the ones the Krell had been sending for 200 years, through prisoners, through captured warriors, through every single Krell that ended up in human hands. They'd all been carrying these stones, all trying to show the coordinates, all trying to say the same thing. We're here. We're intelligent. Please see us. But humans never looked. The council said the stones were instinct, nest-building behavior, nothing more. 200 years of desperate communication, ignored. Thrak showed Eliza one stone in particular. The pattern was different, more complex. She studied it for an hour before she understood. It wasn't a map. It was a game. A chess problem, but not like any she'd seen. It had 17 solutions. Each one led to a different outcome. Some were wins, some were draws. One was a loss. It was a question. Which path would humanity choose? Thrak pointed to one specific solution, the one where both kings survived, where the game ended not in victory or defeat, but in balance. He was asking again, could we choose cooperation? Could we choose to see each other as equals? Eliza looked at Thrak, this massive warrior who had spent 14 months in a cell, who'd endured isolation, who'd been studied and tested and doubted, and who, despite all of that, still extended his hand in friendship. She made a choice. She took the stone. held it up. Then she moved it to that specific square, the one Thrak had indicated, the solution where both kings lived. That deep sound came from Thrak's chest again, but this time Eliza heard something different. She'd been learning, studying Krell acoustics. The vibration wasn't just sound, it had meaning, structure. He was laughing. In his own way, he was laughing, with relief, with joy. The building they stood in was special. Thrak explained through movement and gesture. It was a library, a place where the Krell kept their history, their knowledge, their culture. He wanted to show her something specific. He led her deep into the structure, to a chamber filled with stones, not just hundreds, thousands, maybe millions. Each stone represented a Krell who'd tried to make contact. Over 1,000 years of attempts, with different species, different civilizations, some human, most not. Every single species made the same mistake. They saw the Krell as animals, as threats, as resources to exploit, until Chess. Thrak showed her one final thing, a new section of the library, fresh stones, recently carved. These held a different pattern, a new star map, coordinates to a different system, one that humans hadn't explored yet. There's another species there, one that acts aggressive toward Krell scouts. One that the Krell couldn't communicate with, one that seems intelligent but doesn't respond to Krell methods. Thrak was asking for help. He wanted humanity to try, to use our methods, our frameworks, to see if we could build a bridge where the Krell couldn't. He was trusting us, despite everything we'd done. Despite 200 years of violence, he was saying we could be partners, that together we might reach species that neither of us could reach alone. Eliza took the coordinates, promised to try, and she meant it. The expedition launches next month. Eliza's leading it. Thrak's coming too. So is a team of humans and Krell. Together, equal partners. They don't know what they'll find. Maybe another misunderstood species. Maybe actual threats. Maybe nothing at all. But they're going together. That's what matters. Because the story of Thrak and the chess games isn't really about intelligence tests. It's not about proving the Council wrong. It's not even about the Krell. It's about assumptions. About the danger of deciding who counts as a person based on whether they think like us, act like us, communicate like us. The galaxy is vast. Intelligence will take forms we can't imagine. Consciousness might exist in patterns we don't recognize. Sentience might be hiding in places we've already dismissed. The lesson isn't that we need better tests. It's that we need better questions. Instead of asking, are they intelligent like us? We should ask, how do they experience intelligence? Instead of, can they think? We should ask, what are they thinking? Instead of, are they people? We should ask, are we willing to see them as people? Thrak taught us that. Not with words, with chess, with patience, with the willingness to meet us halfway. The game, they called him Mindless. They called him feral, a beast with weapons but no soul. He proved them wrong, not by becoming more human, by showing us that humanity isn't the only path to sentience. If this opened your eyes, imagine what else we might be missing. So what are the biggest takeaways here? First, intelligence isn't universal. It's contextual. The Krell aren't less intelligent than humans. They're differently intelligent. Their minds work through patterns we barely understand. If we'd kept using human-designed tests, we'd never have seen it. Second, communication isn't just language. The Krell were talking to us for 200 years, through stones, through patterns, through gesture and movement. We weren't listening. We assumed if they didn't speak like us, they weren't speaking at all. Third, the danger of authority. The Galactic Council had economic and political reasons to keep the Krell classified as Category 4. Sometimes systems don't fail by accident. They fail because someone profits from the failure. Fourth, one person can make a difference. Eliza Voss was a junior researcher. She had no authority, no power, but she refused to accept the official narrative. She looked closer, tried differently, and changed the galaxy. Thrak's chess games became the most watched footage in human history. Over 4 billion people have seen him play. School curricula across 50 worlds now include lessons on non-human intelligence, on recognizing sentience in unexpected forms. The category abolitionist movement is growing, already forcing policy changes. 3 more species have been reclassified. Treaties are being rewritten. It's messy, difficult, but it's happening, and it all started with 1 human and 1 Krell sitting across a chessboard, learning to see each other. If this story opened your eyes, you need to subscribe, because this channel covers the stories that matter, the ones that change how we see the universe, the ones that challenge everything we thought we knew. Hit that like button if you want more deep dives into First Contact, into the real stories of humanity in space, into the moments that define us as a species. And here's my question for you. If you could teach an alien species 1 human concept, 1 game, 1 piece of culture, what would it be? And why? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's build a conversation. Next video, we're covering the Tau Ceti incident, the colony that made contact with a hive mind. Except the hive mind wasn't what anyone expected. That story goes live in 3 days. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember Thrak's lesson. Intelligence comes in forms we don't expect. Always look closer. Always ask better questions. And never assume you know the only way to think. I'll see you in the next one.